Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, from the tall green trees here in Seattle and the sparkling vampires to the gun-wielding, tree-hugging bears all the way in Tampa, Florida, this is the Everything and Nothing Show. I'm just one of your hosts with the mostest, the Heartbreak Kid, Clayton Kisco, and I'm accompanied, of course, by the rest of the Maelstrom gamers, the underdogs in gaming. With us on this podcast today, we have the bad... Wait, no, we don't.
No.
We have the A-Train, Mr.
Shit.
No, we don't have him either. We got the Heartthrob. No, we don't have the Heartthrob either. Huh, that's a little weird. Well, we certainly have the artist formerly known as the Enigma, the Wild Card, Ian Kane.
What is going on,
It's a two-man show today.
That's right.
It's all good. We're picking topics that will hopefully just benefit from having two people as opposed to a bunch of five people with dumb opinions trying to get a word in edgewise. A pretty slim line of hosts, but no worries. People are busy, and they'll be back next week.
Clay,
what's up?
Clay,
What's up?
I wanted to tell you this. What's really good about this podcast, just you and I being here, is that we can actually talk shit about them and they can't respond.
Oh yeah, like Rocco's like Rocco's man bun and Alan's like weird Twitch thing he does.
And his tallness.
Yeah, his tallness and his like perfect hair that he tries to rub in our faces all the time. And then Steve-O's like affinity with the cop show, and we have to listen to that in the background every time we play League. It's ridiculous.
And his cut-off shirts.
Yeah, and his cut-off shirts. It's crazy. He's always flexing those muscles. It's weird. I don't like it.
I'm very jealous.
Very jealous.
Of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are just joining us, or if you've forgotten, I will remind you of the format of the show. The Everything Nothing Show is a formation of topics brought to you by the Maelstrom Gamers, where we hop on a Skype each and every week, have 5 topics. We come with, for our discussion, but more importantly, for your entertainment. In this week, I'm going to have 3 topics. Well, actually, I'm going to have 2 topics. Ian, you're going to have 2 topics. And then we're going to do a little bit of a pilot to a PTI-inspired show that we potentially could do in the future. We've done it in the past in the Do the News, but we're gonna kind of crank it up a little bit in its speed and its formality. So we each bring 5 topics, and those 5 topics are its own separate episode on YouTube, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Maelstrom Gamers channel. Topic is brought to you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Friday with each topic, and on Saturday, all the topics are rolled up into one big episode. All of that is for free, but if you'd like to get it early and maybe some other goodies for as little as like $1, which is like a fifth of the cost of a coffee that you get, maybe the second one on a weekend or third one, maybe you can cut the third one out and then give us one of those dollars. You can give it to us on patreon.com/MaelstromGamers, and with it you'll get goodies and rewards and stuff like that. And look, if you don't have money, that's cool too. There's free ways that we like to remind people that you can support us, which are equally as important. It's commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, at our Twitter handle, at Maelstrom Gamers, and our Instagram handle. All that stuff is super, super helpful. And at the end of the day, we kind of just want to hear from you. We talk a lot about these topics. We're not experts by any means, and we want to know what your opinion is, because we just like talking about the things that we talk about. So it's entertaining for us when we hear your thoughts. Let's see. And then if you haven't had enough of that, you guys can watch us on our YouTube streaming channel. Same channel, Maelstrom Gamers channel, where we're streaming League of Legends, Smite, Uncharted 4, The Division. What else we got, Ian?
I got a few videos of Dark Souls. Little bit of course, you said League. So there's a lot of games that we have. I've been doing a little bit of Paragon. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's going to be part of our topic later on.
It is.
And there's much more to come. I'm actually getting back into Elder Scrolls Online, so maybe you might see a little bit of tidbit of that.
Ooh, tidbits. I love tidbits. Okay, so check us out. Look, we're not the best, so you're not going to see anything crazy, but we're certainly not the worst, so you won't get frustrated, but we are entertaining. Yeah, okay, closer.
Boom.
Yeah, look at that. So yeah, watch us. Come hang out. You can stalk us. It's totally cool. Or come play with us. just find us on that YouTube streaming, and then just hop on and play with us. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. We covered the ways that you could support us for free. We covered the ways that you could support us with money, which is really, really appreciated, and the format of the show. So let's get started. Let's get our first topic in. We had just wrapped up an E3 themed episode, but what I realized, Ian, from that is that we had way too much information to try to cover within the time slot that we were given and the amount of topics we were given. So I felt like we were just steamrolling down all of the different kind of topics and little bits of information, and a lot of it got like thrown to the wayside, or we couldn't talk about it. So I wanted to pick one game, and which we've decided on before this podcast, and just kind of dig into it a little bit more and talk about it a little bit more, and kind of just breathe a little bit, and so that we can kind of like really step back, fresh eyes, and look at it. And that game is for the PS4. It's a little game. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called God of War.
Just tiny.
Yeah, actually. So the new God of War is coming out for the PS4. It's just God of War, right? It's like that reboot style where there's no numbers, there's no like retribution, like weird subtitles. It's just reboot God of War.
Well, I think that there might be something after it. I'm not exactly sure on the title, but that's all you really need. I mean, honestly, it's all very close to the same game. I've played them all. They're awesome. I think the graphics are great. I like that whole Greek mythology behind it, and I think that they've nailed it on the head every time. And what they introduced, I believe, last time was a multiplayer. I don't know if you got to play the game at all, but it's really cool. It's a basic, multiplayer game where you're just literally smashing each person. It's an arena style. You have a map, and you go and just fight, and you have certain abilities. It doesn't get too complex, but they have a little bit like of different abilities that you can customize your character. So.
That's great, Ian, and I'm glad that you brought that to the table, but I'm going to quickly shove it aside because in an article by IGN, director Cory Barlog confirmed that the new game has dropped the multiplayer mode.
What?
That was added. And, yeah.
Man.
They've dropped that, and they said that that this actually won't be Kratos' last game either. I know there was a lot of speculations and rumors that he's going to die or he's going to be gone or you're going to play the kid.
Yeah.
He's confirmed that this is not his last game, which, it could still be construed where, maybe he is dead and he just comes back in like in another form in the game and you're not playing him, but I think it's still worth mentioning. He also confirmed that Kratos' son would not be a hindrance in combat, meaning the player won't have to break off fights to look after him. And I have my thoughts about this. Alan previously had mentioned that there was a lot of rumors and thoughts that you eventually play him because of the XP going in to the kid. But my thought, actually, like watching more deep dive gameplay, rewind trailers of God of War, which is confirmed, it's just God of War. There's no subtitle. Was that basically he is an extension. Think of him as like a weapon. With its own progression track. So he's an extension of your combat. You have him in there like doing certain things just on its wayside. And it's not like you have to protect him or whatever. He's like a pet pretty much. And this child will get XP so that you can help improve him, train him. Maybe his arrows get stronger or they do different things. And so now in combat, you're doing a lot of the stuff, but you have this like secondary like helping hand that gets to like improve. And then narratively, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because he's there to train his son. So potentially in the future, when you maybe end up playing this kid, you have a long-standing relationship and connection with him. That's my thought. I think he's just going to be an extension of the combat. And that comment by Barlog about how he won't be a hindrance in combat suggests that, it's not this hand-holdy, protect him so he doesn't die, and if he dies, you lose the game. I don't even know if he's going to have a health bar. You know what I mean? Like, I think he might just be a thing in the environment you're going to be able to help, like, use to help kill bad guys and stuff.
I really hope that's the case because, I mean, there was one game, I can't remember what it was, but there was a part in it where you had your child, and literally the pathing of that child would always like kind of go off to the side and everything, and you're trying to fight, and then you have to go back and try to save it. It could really destroy the game, I think. So to have him like a pet style with no health, just kind of giving you a helping hand. Maybe you can make him go and do something interacting with the environment to kill a bunch of things. That would be really cool.
Yeah,
So,
I get the sense that like the between the big things of combat, I don't know. Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about either is and this is going to lead into the comment I was about to say, but I feel like it requires a little bit of a back kind of thought. And what we didn't talk about was basically the new camera.
right.
You are so much close. Think of it like it reminds me of Tomb Raider.
Right, third person.
Yeah,
You're right over the shoulder.
or Gears of War. Yeah, it's like right
Yeah.
over the shoulder. It's so much closer, which is different. Has a lot of implications. Now all of a sudden, having like a ton of enemies on the screen at once gets a little bit hard to deal with. It's not going to be, I don't believe, as hack and slashy. I think it's going to be a little bit more methodical, slowed down, like you would of a Tomb Raider. And so because of that kind of style of combat and the pacing with it, I think that. I don't know. I think that's going to be really refreshing, and I think that's going to be new, and I think that's what the series needed. But it also doesn't necessarily. Well, I was going to say that it's just going to be different, right? Like I think the puzzling mechanic, like so, the God of War really breaks down to an interesting loop, where it's like four major pillars, right?
Right.
It's the exploration of the environment and using like. And having to solve puzzles within the environment. Then
Puzzles and platforms, I would imagine, pretty much what it is.
hack and slash combat, boss battles, and then upgrading your guy, right? And then it's just looped, and it could go in different order. It doesn't have to follow that order. But the puzzles that they're going to present are going to be. They're going to be different than I think what we're traditionally used to. Almost traditionally, I think it's a little bit more of an arcadey puzzle. Like you have this like water that's running and this dead body. You got to shove it in there so like the boxes would stop, and then you can climb that out. And like, ironically,
stack up and you can get up on top of the ledge and
exactly, yeah. And now it's following, ironically, the Tomb Raider style. I think where you're going to see these like bears or like these wildlife creatures that you're going to shoot and use to like collect stuff to potentially like not only get experience but use materials to upgrade weapons, right? And also could play a part of the environmental puzzles, the traversal puzzles that I think are indicative of the new Tomb Raider game, whereas the old God of War was more indicative of the old Tomb Raider style game. It's actually kind of interesting that they've followed the breadcrumbs that Tomb Raider's laid out, because Tomb Raider reinvented itself very successfully, and I think God of War is trying to do the exact same thing, and they might be looking heavily for inspiration in that series.
Now, I have a question for you, Clay. How cool would it be if you could kill like a bear, like you said, or something of that sort, and make a bow out of it?
That's what I mean. Maybe not like make a bow right away, but you can certainly get like food and like bone, and use those materials to eventually craft with a combination of wood and like. Yeah, I actually think that is precisely what they're gonna go towards, just like Tomb Raider.
But it would be so cool to have like the spine of a bear as your staff, like that would be pretty cool. And have its head on top.
And then the other thing is that these animals are a little bit more mythic, right? Like Tomb Raider is set very grittily in the real world, whereas God of War is set grittily in god mythology. In this case, Norse mythology. So there's a lot of snow. It's very Norwegian, and then that elk that they kill. It's got like these glowing ice-tipped antlers, right? So yeah, I definitely think they can like siphon magic from it, potentially use the antlers, like you said, for like tools, like bows. It makes a lot of sense. There's runes on it, you know what I mean? Like there's gonna be some really fun things. You can do so much with magic when it comes to gameplay and story. You can just get away with a ton. So I'm really excited about that. I also man, they did a really good job of scale. That I think that camera also lends itself well to by having that camera get so close to the over the shoulder of the of Kratos. you get to see firsthand what scaling is in terms of like how big you are relative to the environment, how big your son is relative to the environment, how big enemies are relative to the environment, and then how big like the creatures and other more like mythic creature or enemies are in relative to the environment. So you have your child, you have those trolls that you're killing, or golems, whatever, and then you have like the bigger troll who is huge, and you have that elk that comes out, and instead of just like looking like, okay, that's just a
that's
deer,
kind of a big enemy. Yeah.
he looks like they did such a good job of like that thing feeling majestic and rare because of how big it was. Even Kratos was smaller than him, and he's a big guy. Like that felt really, really like realistic and cool and refreshing. And you can only really do that, I think, with that camera that you have, because his fight with the troll really felt big. And they kind of did it in the old God of War where it would zoom in during like the QTE, which is another thing I want to get to. But now even the moment-to-moment gameplay is feeling really epic that you couldn't have when it was isometric camera top down, because when you use that camera they all feel somewhat the same size. Maybe they're thicker, which you can get with the isometric camera, but the height you can't necessarily get, and this camera lends itself to height variation really well amongst enemies and creatures.
I agree with you there, because I mean it's really cool to get that aspect of it. Like, holy shit, that is a big enemy. Like, how am I gonna fight that thing? But when you do top down, you're like, okay, my guy's a little bit smaller, but I'm just gonna move here and here, and it's just like kind of a I guess like a chessboard almost. You're just looking right over it. But exactly. To get that aspect of over the shoulder, like, oh, this thing's gonna mess me up.
I'm only as tall as his knee. And then that, like we talked about, like it's doing a ton for combat, because now you don't hack and slash. Now you're like, oh shit, okay, do I hit the ankle? Do I aim? Do I jump and roll and then hit for? It's like it's almost Dark Souls style.
That's what I was gonna say, and that's what's great about Dark Souls is like you fight these major epic bosses that are enormous. So I feel like they're taking that into consideration now and kind of spinning off their own little thing on their God of War style off of that. So it's great. I think it's going to really improve the gameplay. I think it's going to help the series, because they're going to come out with more God of Wars. So and hopefully they keep with that path. So and I always enjoyed, you're sitting there fighting like these little horde of enemies, and then out of nowhere, boom, you're fighting this giant, and you have to sit there and climb him and slash his throat or something. It'd be just really cool.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. I'm really excited for it. The other thing that I was bringing up is QTE seems to be still there, but severely like brought down, right? Like it doesn't feel as in your face. Like the fight with the troll, he just did his special and nailed it, and then we got to just sit back and kind of watch a really cool way that Kratos just dismantles this creature. The QTE, like, I'm not a fan of. I used to be. I have since been convinced and like played enough of it that it doesn't really feel gamey at all. It feels like a chore. And there's really there's ways to do it that it feels like a chore and kind of like a cheap way, a lazy way to get some extra gameplay during a cinematic. And then there's ways to do it completely wrong, like Metal Gear Solid 2, where you are just slamming on a controller, and it's a physical frustration and challenge as opposed to a mental one where it's patterns and learning the gameplay mechanics, and it just doesn't work, right? So going away from QTEs, which for those of you guys don't know are quick time events, which is to say, like a character goes to attack and all of a sudden it's like you have to press the X button and you have like a second to do it, and if you don't do it you die, and then after you do the X button it's like, okay, now do the square. It's like Simon. No, it's not like Simon. It's like, I don't know.
And then you have to time it because there's a little timer and you have to hit it at exact time, or you have to tap something while something's about to impale you.
It's just, I think, man, I just think there's better ways. There's got to be better ways to do it. More interesting, more fun ways.
It's tough. I mean, because honestly, QTEs I wasn't the biggest fan of, but then again, it is kind of cool sometimes. And as long as it's not overpowered, where you have to sit there and you have to go through this huge sequence and it's like the whole fight. It's like, no, I would actually like to fight it and then maybe have like a finisher be like that.
Yeah.
So I know there's some, I know that with, at least in the past God of Wars, that's how a lot of the endings were in a boss fight was a QTE, honestly. So hopefully they master that a little bit better.
Yeah. I think just using your special and like seeing something fun, I think is way better.
Right.
There's cool ways to do it. And then we could talk about. I mean, we're in Norse mythology. There's so much to think about. I mean, there's Thor, there's Odin, there's Loki, there's Ragnarok. The thought that like it's when Loki and Fenrir, which I think someone mentioned in the comments when I was watching a Rewind trailer, that they saw a giant wolf in the background.
Yep.
And that could be Fenrir, who is a wolf son of Loki, who is the one that kills Odin, I believe.
I think that's how it all works.
And then there's like a dragon in the background, which could be, part of Ragnar. I think part of Ragnar. Or like, there's like, they're not like these characters. Like you see, like a snakish like character. Like they're not just like random. Oh man, holy crap!
Like a random character, just like almost it's telling the story of mythology, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh man, there's some good stuff too. Because I think Fenrir. I did this on some stuff on Deer Hunter. I think Fenrir. He also has two wolf sons, and I believe they eat the moon and the sun.
Okay.
And those were like creatures as well. Oh man. And then he's the one that like kills Odin, I believe, or Thor. He kills Thor or Odin. There's some like just really interesting mythology, and it's like refreshing because it's just a different take. Like I don't know, some of that Greek stuff is it's definitely overplayed at this point. So going towards that direction, Viking, Norse is really fun to dive into and learn about.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm excited for the game. I'm very excited for the game. So,
do you think where would you think they would go if it's not Norse? Where do you think they would head to? Because I think we mentioned it could have been Egypt, which would have been fun and felt really different.
Honestly, that wouldn't be a bad idea for someone to kind of spin off a God of War type of game to be more Egyptian. I mean, there's so much history in that, and there's just a lot of mystery too, if you really think about it, like hieroglyphics and everything like that. It's an untapped language half the time, and there's I think that would be pretty cool to think of how they could go about that. Of course, you have mummies and all that kind of stuff, but literally, what's that?
I just got really excited to fight mummies and stuff.
Oh yeah, and to you got pyramids, you got giant scale things that we sit there and wonder how they were even created back then. Without technology and everything. I think that would be a really cool concept to go around. Maybe think of a protagonist that they can center everything. We use, of course, in God of War, the God of War, Kratos. So who would be a pretty cool guy to kind of go around in like an Egyptian?
I think it has to be Kratos. I think it's got to be that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't think of like an Egyptian hero or someone of that sort?
No, well, Kratos is not a Greek hero. He's completely made up.
Right. No, I'm just saying, but like if you think of more of an Egyptian hero that you could think of.
I think it's fun because Kratos is made up. I think it's fun to imagine that you're Kratos because you have no affiliation or association with this old religion, of gods that you're just fucking. You were learning and witnessing everything for the first time, just like your character that you're playing. And then you're also probably pretty angry because you relate to his emotions against the Egyptian gods. You're like, yeah, let's take him out. I don't know. Like, for instance, like if this was flipped and Egyptians were the first type of stuff that we had experienced and we were talking Greek mythology, I wouldn't say, like, I want to play Hercules. Because, like, at the end of the day, I think it was a better choice to pick a made-up character like Kratos, who you have freedom to explore and, like, do different things and mess with him a little bit. Like, he's got those, like, really cool swords that fly out, which is another thing he's missing. He has an axe in this new one. And, like, he's just ill-tempered. Like, Hercules is too goody two-shoes. He's using his fists. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little vanilla, and Hercules is a boring character. You probably can't do a lot with him. So, yeah, having someone made up completely like Kratos. I mean, I guess they can make a new person up for Egypt, but, like, I don't know. My brain goes to the business side, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to necessarily, like, I would want to flush out Norse, and then after Norse, go on to the Egyptian side of it and, like, still have Kratos. Because, like, if you try to do it in parallel, you might be blowing your load, so to speak, a little bit too early.
Oh, of course.
So I personally wouldn't want a new guy. I would want someone like Kratos or his son to be in those games.
Okay.
The only other religion that I can think of is the Chinese religion.
Well, that was my next thought. Is like, okay, then do you go down that path? Because I mean, that has so much behind it. But if you think about it, really, there's similar games. I'm not going to say it's very similar to God of War, but you have like Dynasty Warriors and everything, which is like a hack and slash. Great games. I like them. They get a little redundant after a while, but you know, do you start competing with them? I mean,
they're different games. And like you said, they're redundant, and you play Dynasty Warriors 10, you've basically played Dynasty Warriors 1. You know what I mean? Like, but if you go in for God of War now, you have a completely different view and perspective on that mythology. And you've played a lot of Smite, so I'm curious. Yeah. I know they have the Chinese mythology. They have Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and
you have Egyptian
mythology. What else did
Hindu?
Oh, that would feel weird. Going into Hindu and like killing people.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. That would definitely be something.
What else? We touched upon Norse, Greek.
I think those are the major players.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's subs to a lot of those, but honestly, just stick with the main stuff to really hit the market. You know,
once you've hit the major four, Greek, Norse, Chinese, Egyptian, I would expect a return to Greek. I would then be at that point. You're talking what, 2 years per game, 3 per mythology. That's what is that?
5. I'm guessing
3 times 15 years would have gone by from this point on before we see another Greek. So that's also another like 3 or 4 years between the last God of War 3. So we're talking almost 20 years since we've been back to the Greek mythology. Like, that's plenty. And then that's a great cycle, especially as a consumer too, because you go this amount of years without seeing something. So when they come back to it, it feels really refreshing too.
You're like, oh hell yeah, I remember playing this when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's all new technology and you're doing this and that. And
it's VR.
It gets crazy. I was just about to say, virtual reality. So
cool. So let's go on. I got nothing else. So I'm ready to rock.
No, I think we're good. Let's hit the next one, man.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to say this as enunciate this as best as I can because it could be easily misheard. My topic is tipless bars and restaurants. Tipless. With a P.
Did you say tit?
Yeah. A lot of studies have been coming out recently about the new phenomenon and movement to have bars and restaurant owners are moving away from tip-based income for their employees. So waiters, food runners, busboys, bartenders, they historically have earned their money from the tips of the people that they serve, and that has pros and that has cons. As a pro,
big time.
You can definitely rack up a ton of money, and it could be really great if someone is feeling generous. As a con, you get
screwed.
You could be screwed because it could not be busy that day, and you might not get anything. Or someone doesn't know how to tip 15%, 20% math, and they give you a shitty tip. Or they had a bad experience with the maitre d' or the hostess, and they take that out on you by not giving you a tip. Or something out of control calls them, or they're just a dick, or they're old and they don't tip, and so you don't get a tip, right? So that has its cons. And then, tips also are subject to taxes, and so that, while seems really great, could kind of hinder you too. It's just an odd way to do it. It's like a lot of weird math. So it's not guaranteed money, but you can also have really large spikes of good money. It also, the other con I would suggest, which is also a pro, it's weird depending on what side you're on, is that the crew on Friday and Saturday traditionally are going to be making the more tips than the crew who's on Monday and Tuesday. And usually the crew that's on Monday and Tuesday are the new guys, the people who are not so good. And then if you get those days, that sucks. But if you're paid hourly, it's steady income. It's not as spiky, so it's less risk reward. But it's steady, and Monday is the same as Saturday, right?
Well, And did you ever work in like the restaurant industry and everything? Were you a server or?
I worked in the restaurant industry from the age of 12 years old to about 23,
Okay,
22.
great.
I was a busboy to a food runner to a waiter. What else did I do? That's pretty much it. I worked in an Italian mom and pop shop, an Irish pub, and a Japanese restaurant.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. Well, my background, I started out as a cook at restaurants, and then I became a bar back and busser, and then became a bartender. And I did it for probably about 15 to 28. So, with you and I having so much experience in the industry, you can make a lot of money, but like you said, it could hurt some nights, And what other things that kind of happen is people can have a bad experience with the food that you don't even have any kind of control over. Like,
Yep.
Your kitchen taking too long to create the food. It's like, hey, what the hell are you guys doing back here? And to them, the cooks and everyone, they're hourly.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get tips or anything of that sort. So to them, yeah, they want to keep their job. They want to sit there and provide good food, but things get backed up. And me being a cook back then, you're sitting there trying to do stuff, and yeah, you get busy and everything, and things back up, and then you have the server yelling at you. So I had like different ends of the spectrum. I can understand what happens with the kitchen, but they sit there and they send out a bad product. It's the server that suffers,
Right.
and that's what sucks. So going to like a tipless style, I think it's a good idea, but I think still to incorporate a tip if someone goes that extra mile.
Yep.
Agreed. I've provided excellent service, and I've had it. So being in that industry, and when I go out to eat or something of that sort, and I notice that person is doing like an extra step to really make my experience well, I'll over tip. But if we go towards a tipless, maybe leaving like 2 or 3%, and they're still getting hourly, I think that's a good style right there.
Yeah.
And then if you feel like you got crappy service, you just don't tip at all.
Right.
But they still get their hourly. So I think it's a good idea. Do I think it's going to kind of overtake at least the U.S.? I don't think so. I think we're so heavily into that system already that it's like second nature to people.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say about going tipless, which I bring it up because Seattle and San Francisco, more bars and restaurants are moving towards this new thing, at least testing it out, and it has a lot to do with the connection to the $15 minimum wage hike.
Right.
But the other thing that I think adds to it is that when you are not fighting tooth and nail for a tip, you are now theoretically, pooled is the term they use in the restaurant business. You are pooled in with everybody else. Everybody else is making the same amount of money. So it is now in your best interest to not necessarily shark your table specifically for the most money that you can rake out of them, but to make your job and other people's jobs as easy as possible, right? Now it becomes about, well, look, I want to help Ian because he's in the weeds, aka he's really, really busy, and he just got slammed with 5 tables at a time, and he's just backed up because you can't be at 5 places at once. You have to go in order, and unfortunately, the last table is going to be a little bit more pissed off that their shit's like they're getting attended to fifth in order, which could be anywhere between 10, 15 minutes, right? Because 2-3 minutes per table that you have to get, right? So if you're in the weeds, it's in my best interest to help you to ease the pressure off you because it's.
You're going to make more money.
Well, we're all making the same amount of money. You might get tipped a little bit more, but when I'm in the weeds, I want someone to scratch my back, right? And so if you're, if I release the pressure off you, you can release the pressure off me. Like we can work as a more cohesive team. And it's not, every man for himself kind of mentality or culture that you normally would get in a very, tip-based, non-pooled restaurant or bar.
Well, on the other end of the spectrum, you're working, you're making the same amount of money. Why do I want to go make myself more busy at work and help you out when I'm still only making, we'll just give round numbers, $10 an hour. I don't want to get all crazy and busy. I just want a relaxed night.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go help him. I'm just going to take care of what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's the other end of the spectrum. It's a tough thing there.
I think then you get fired. I think people are like, look, this guy's not helping us out. You know what I mean? And like, normally you might have an excuse maybe, I don't know. I might be grasping at straws here, but you might just be like, look, I'm gonna have tables here. Like, this is your job. Like, that's your section. This is my section. I'm in charge. Like, there's a little bit more of a cultural divide in that workspace when you are fighting for your own tips. Like,
Right.
and that's not to say that that's always the case. Like, I'm sure there are there are restaurants where it's like, no, even if I'm not busy, I'll go over and I'll help that person regardless, because if they get more tips, they'll help me too. So like, that still is there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like it's got more of a perception of a team base when everybody's making the same amount of money and you don't have to worry about getting the tips, I guess. I don't know.
Right, and I agree with you there. And it just being in the industry, you just have those people, well, previously being in the industry, that even when you could make more money picking up a table, they wouldn't do it. They're just not a team-based player, and it does suck. It just, unfortunately, that's how some people, I believe, think. They're like, I don't want a busy night, so screw that.
Yeah.
I'm good. And yeah, you would think that they'd be fired, but I mean, there was a lot of people in that industry that I thought should have been fired from day one, and they still stuck around for a year or two. It's ridiculous sometimes, and it's a tough industry. I mean, you're literally trying to take care of the client while making things happen. It is such multitasking. Like, people do not appreciate it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't like to complain when I go out unless it's like really terrible, and I like to reward the people that I believe are doing a great job, or having a great job, and
yeah, have a great job, everyone.
That's right. But then the other end of the spectrum, if you're all making the same money, why would you want to serve? I'd just rather just bus or something of that sort. So you'd have to then say,
no, a waiter would make more money than a bus.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you'd have to sit there and go, okay, well, this gets paid this and da 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 da. I did love bartending. That was some of the greatest experiences I ever had. So you would still then, would bartenders make more than a waiter?
I would imagine.
Okay.
What's interesting, what I'm finding here is that, so a lot of these restaurants there's some that have tried it and gone back. Like, it's tricky, right? And each restaurant's different, but most of them, surprisingly, have a 20% service charge, flat 20% service charge, and that's the generated income there.
Okay.
You don't tip; it's just a part of it, right? So that I find fascinating, because I would think that it would be 18% at most, because that's in between, like somewhat in between the 15 traditionally, and then 20%. But yeah, there are a lot of them are at 20% that I'm seeing here, and there have been complaints, like this one story about how a customer had complained that you don't even, like, in this process, what a lot of people are doing are just giving you the check with the service charge of 20%, and then just basically you're signing, right?
Right.
People actually complain because if they wanted to increase that tip even more, because if someone, like, they don't have the opportunity.
Right.
So that's tricky too, because for some people that's great because they had a great experience, they want to actually give more. But for other people, it might come off as like, hey, here's your service charge, and if you want, and it's almost suggestive, like you should be tipping on top of the 20%, which can come off as offensive, or it's like a little bit too pushy. So you could take it the wrong way, right, depending on the person. So I just find that fascinating that this is something new. This is something that people are trying, but there's a lot of pitfalls ahead of them, and they're still trying to figure it out, right?
Well, and how do you present that? Do you
Right.
have a big old sign when you first walk in,
Oh,
like, hey,
right.
this is a tipless bar or something, or
Yeah.
is it right on the check?
Right.
Okay, but 90% of people, they get their receipt and they just see two lines and they do that. They don't really read everything else sometimes. I mean, you might look at line items, but you're not going to read the bottom of it or something of that sort. So you really have to, like, make it jump out at people.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
then
like
the
the
only
waiters have to tell the people, like, remember, like, tip is included, so don't worry, like, yeah,
right.
for sure. It's gonna be, it's an interesting transition, to say the least, right? I'm kind of for it. I think, I don't know, man.
And see, this would be a good time, I guess, for Alan. So in Canada, they pay their waiters and waitresses, right?
Yeah.
They're not tipped.
Yeah.
Okay, now up there, I've never been to Canada. Have you?
Yeah, I visited
Okay.
them a couple times.
Now, have you going out? Is there still lines to be able to tip them, or?
I mean, you can always give them. I don't remember. I know that if you wanted to, you can always drop cash.
Cash.
You can always drop
Yeah.
cash, right? But it's you don't really tip, and that's okay.
Well, and I'll tell you my background. Where I bartended was in downtown Tampa, across the street from where the Tampa Bay Lightning, their stadium.
Yeah.
And of course, hockey is a very big. It's huge in Canada. So when you'd play a Canadian team, that's actually some of the busiest nights where I'd make the least amount of money, and it was terrible. Because a lot of people coming down, they're so used to not tipping, and I would sit there and get slammed for like 2-3 hours straight and make like a quarter of what I normally make, and it sucks and it's terrible.
Yeah.
And those nights you dreaded them, and it's unfortunate. Now, granted, like some people would sit there and say, "Oh, hey, thank you so much. You were very polite and everything," and then tip you maybe 10%, maybe 5%. And at the end of the night, you got to think of the other end of the spectrum is that you have to then tip out of what you make to your barbacks and bussers and all that stuff. So it's like, I didn't make shit tonight, and now I have to give part of this to someone else because they need to make their money. So, and at that point, it's like literally splitting hairs and trying to divvy up a small pool of money for a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it was tough. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You're sitting there I was at a sports bar and restaurant, and you'd have literally around the whole bar 10 people deep, and you're like, okay, I'm maybe gonna make $50 tonight. And as a bartender, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bartenders make around like 500, right?
Oh, there was my best night ever was I made $1,000.
Yeah, they can. So the sky's the limit. But what I'm reading here is that like they've compared basically these restaurants that have gone to a tipless style compared to a traditional style, and the difference is between because you can argue, okay, if you like because everything is included,
Right.
including tax on the menu, you would think that the menu items would be a lot higher than traditional menu items, but they're actually not that much higher, is what they're finding in terms of this like one restaurant, for example. And then what they found is that because it's a little bit more steady, because that it's 20% on top of everything. Like some people are not going to just not tip you. Some people are not going to just give you 10% or 15%. They're going to give you 20% because that's part of it. You actually can do things like employee benefits and employee profit sharing. And so like those are some of the hidden pros that some people don't think about when you like. Because Ian, I agree with you. That one night that you got 1,000, you're like, man, like it's almost a phenomenon of like wanting to win the lottery, right?
I busted my ass that night, but at the end of the night, I was like, "Whoa, I've never done this."
But when someone, it's just like going to win the lottery or playing like Las Vegas or like going to the casino. It's like, man, you have the potential to win so much money. So you put as much as you want. But if I was like, okay, I'm actually gonna cap it for your own good. I'm gonna like keep you at this price point, and maybe you won't see the spikes as often. But because it's consistent over the long term, you're going to actually make more and benefit more, especially when the fact that I can put profit sharing and I can put benefits on top of it because it's so steady. I now can I can predict it a lot better, right? It's less volatile. And so now all of a sudden, like, it's not as tangible, but it can potentially be a lot better than, you had the one night that was just really like exhilarating and you got your adrenaline running because you got 1,000, right?
Well, and that's great because I never once had health insurance when I was in the restaurant industry. Yeah. So it's like you get injured, you're like, wait, A, I can't work, and B, I can't even like go to the doctor or I'm going to pay out a bunch of money. So that's, I think, one of the biggest things is that if that's the ability that you can get some benefits out of it, for sure, like, let's do it. But I just think it's going to be a pretty tough transition because A, you really got to get a lot of places on board to do that. And not only that, B, is it going to hurt like the smaller establishments to do that? Because maybe people don't go out as much because, I mean, granted, when you look at that number in a menu, it's going to be a lot less than what you said, that it doesn't change too much.
They said, they said that they only saw like maybe $1 or $2 change. And that's okay. I don't think that's too bad.
Well, because, you just got to bring that into the cost of the items, if you really think about it. So I think it might be a very good idea. I just think it's going to be a tough transition.
I mean, we're smart guys. We can do this. If a soup is traditionally $4 And all you're doing is adding 20% onto everything to make up for a 20% service charge at the total end of the bill, right? I mean, that kind of worked that way. 20% of $4 is what? Is
$85.95.
what? Of $4?
I'm kidding.
I was like, I didn't say 40, or 400. You got me. Okay, 20% of $4 is like almost $1, right?
Yeah.
It's like 80 cents. Okay, so yeah, $4. Okay, you roll that up to so what was a soup is now $5.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the end, you don't have to feel like, oh, well, if I only tip them 15%, will they get mad? Or
that's what people are thinking.
I'm a regular here, like, because honestly, I have a place I go to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Beefs. So and I feel obligated sometimes that I have to tip well, and not only that, like being in the industry and everyone knows that, it's like, okay, if I tip 20%, that's like a regular for them, you know, and you get that like little built up, like, what do I have to tip? And I always ask my wife. Now the thing is that my wife is over generous with tipping. She thinks that if you go out for lunch, no matter what the bill is, you have to at least leave $5. I was like, that's not the case. That's not the case.
I did that with haircuts.
Really?
Yeah.
I still do that with haircuts, actually.
But I always would give $5 or like $7. But are we talking like $2 meals? Like, what are we?
Like, okay, if she went out and got a salad somewhere and like in a water, and her bill is $8, she would leave $5. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, I understand.
You can leave $2.
Like, right. And at that point, okay, you got a salad and a water, and that's it. And, you know, your bill is, we'll just say $7. Yeah, 2, maybe 3. Granted, yeah, that's still like
that's
a
like,
hefty percentage, but
that's like 150%, right?
3 on 7? No, that's 50%-ish.
No,
just below 50.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, but yeah, if she's leaving 5, I'm like, okay, I understand that you're trying to be nice and generous, but think about this. If you do that every other day, you're spending a shit ton of money just for lunch. That's $13, $15 sometimes.
That's a really good point.
You know? But that argument, she still argues with me to this day about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll remember that. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of arguments, there's a lot of people who like to argue this time of year, especially, you know, in the coming month, about what football player is going to be the football player to bring them to the glorious fantasy football championship. And I wanted to actually, I'm kind of stealing your thunder. This is your topic, right?
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
It was a good segue. Why don't you tell us a little bit more
good.
about this fantasy football?
So, okay, we all know that, what are we, a month and a half, 2 months away now? Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I run a league, but so we're talking about some fantasy football here. You do?
Yeah. I run a league and I'm also in another league.
I do the same thing. See, great minds right here.
Exactly.
So, if everyone doesn't know, of course, fantasy football is where you create a team. There's a lot of different setups that people could have, but the basics are you pick a quarterback, you pick a running back, multiple receivers, a defense, and then a tight end, typically.
Right.
I'm not missing any. Oh, kicker.
Flex.
And then a flex position.
Flex is
flex is pretty much where you can. A lot of leagues, most of the time, it's a either a tight end, a running back, or a receiver that you pick, and it's just like a random, not random, but you can have any one of those be your flex player. It could
usually
be multiple.
The commissioner can make this. You can have. There's multiple different ways to slice it. People who are available for flex are quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end.
Oh, you do quarterback?
No. I'm saying what is available to a commissioner to make this. You can have this. What most people do a tight end, wide receiver as a flex. I tend to do a running back, wide receiver, tight end, flex. I want to give you the options. I want people to come up with crazy different strategies.
You know what I do? You can only do receivers. That's it.
That's not a flex then. That's just another wide receiver.
Exactly. I give it just, hey, you get an extra receiver, and that's it.
Yeah. So the reason why most people have multiple wide receivers is because if you look at the distribution of players across the 32 teams, you're going to have more wide receivers who are starting than running backs, right? You traditionally, up until like the last 3 years, you've only had one running back per 32 teams. With the average fantasy football league of having 12 members, you're going to get to one running back per person. You need a backup at least, and that takes 24 running backs off the market. And if you really look at it, those last, what is it? What does that come to? Six? The last six running back, they ain't getting you points. They're really bad. So that's why you tend to have one running back. And then if you have, and the reason why you have multiple wide receivers is you could theoretically have 3 starting wide receivers per team. That's 3 times 32. I don't know, what is that? 96. So 96 wide receivers at once. You could do the math. There's, you need 3. No, you'll have 2 wide receivers plus, you'll have backups for each one. So that accumulates to, what is that? 24 times 2. You're going to have 48. So,
it's a big pool.
It's a big pool, 48, but that's like half of what we said that what total was of wide receivers. So you still have a bunch of. That's why you have a flex potentially, because there's still really good wide receivers on the market. They get hurt a lot less than running backs. So you can have a good stable of wide receivers. My league does 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a quarterback. Okay, well, also, we only have like 8 to 10 people. So when you have less than 12, you want to bump up the amount of people in your roster, or you are left with a phenomenon of people who aren't picked are left on what's called a waiver wire. And if you need to pick up somebody, like, it's just studs across the board. There's just like a bunch, and that removes a lot of the strategy out of the game if people on the waiver wire are really, really good and getting a lot of points, because you're not penalized for picking wrong or having someone get injured. So we want to definitely fill up your roster and leave the waiver wire with like questionable talent.
You know what? I just remember this. I did change up the abilities, and we have now flex in the one that I run. The other one I have is flex as well.
Okay.
But a lot of people, if you incorporate a quarterback into that flex position, really it's tough, because those are your normally higher scoring point players. So to put in 2 quarterbacks could really weigh out the league. So that's why not a lot of people put in a quarterback that you can have as a flex.
I play a league. The other league I play in has 2 quarterbacks.
Oof.
Yeah, it's tough.
High points then.
Well, yeah, I mean it's high points, but like I've looked into this. There's definitely a drop off in quarterbacks in terms of, like, for instance, Luck and Rodgers 2 years ago were some of the highest scoring. They had like 400 and 300 points. The next highest one was a running back, and it was Lynch, and he had about 290, 300 points.
And I had him.
And you had him, right? But what's interesting to note is the gap of talent behind those top scorers. So yes, you had 2 quarterbacks that were nearly 400 points, but the next highest scoring quarterback was in the 200s, whereas the next highest scoring running back after Marshawn Lynch was still up there in the 250, 300 range. So the density of points is really in the running backs. So it's I would say it's misleading to say that quarterbacks are the highest, because maybe 2 are out of the 32, but then they're not. Then they're just average, just like a tight end. It's Rob Gronkowski, and there's just the tight ends. Like the gap is enormous, and I'd argue if a tight end is really even worth trying to grab in the first round. So
if it's Rob Gronkowski, I mean, honestly, look at the points. He's pretty much
he is a middle of the pack wide receiver point scorer.
That's it, yeah. So, but I mean, if you think about it, though, that's one position that you can continuously have a lot of points generate. If you think about it, like on a tight end, you're happy if you get depending on the point system,
you're happy to get 4.
Yeah, you're just happy to get something.
And he might be getting you 12. On a really great days, he's getting you like enormous amount, like 15 or 20.
Right.
And that's fine, but you're taking him in the first round. What are you giving up in exchange?
Exactly. So that's where I come to you, Clay. Who would be your very first pick? Do you go quarterback? Do you go running back? Or do you go Gronkowski?
So we're talking about football for fantasy football for dummies. So before we go into that, because that's a really good question, I wanted to make sure we covered everything.
Okay.
One of the big things we talked about is like why this is important to gaming and why gamers should do it. And I'd argue that it's a super fun, strategic gaming type of thing to do, right? It's taking football and it's gamifying it because it creates this RPG type of thing, right? Where because you're really interested in the stats because the stats equal points, and it's about synergizing your roster, which is to say like your RPG team, right?
Yeah.
And that's all based off their opponents and those stats and those scores. So like if you're really a stat nerd and you have like and you're interested in it, like I would urge you to like seek out and play. It's so much more fun with friends. So if you have friends that do it already, take the opportunity to join. Don't be intimidated because luck is a huge part of this game. So I know that a lot of people are like, oh, but I would be bad at it and it would suck. And like, look, I've seen people win who don't even draft,
right?
Who have it auto draft and don't change their lineup once. And really, all you need to do to play fantasy football, seriously, on the base level, is to draft
and sign up.
Sign up, draft, and then every week just look at and see if you have anybody injured or anybody on a bye, which is to say they're not going to play that week, and then change them. It is and so it's about 5 minutes per week to play this game, and then from there it's all icing on the cake. If you want to get even deeper into it, you can research, you can really start to like kind of dig into the deepness of it. But people who are crazy strategics can still lose to people who are just like nonchalantly playing. It's that much luck associated with it, but there definitely is like a method to the chaos. So,
I got a big question. Okay, so well, not a question, but closer to like statements. But in your leagues, is it like your friends, or do you have family, or what do you have typically in your league?
The one that I run is family only. And the one that I'm in is a bunch of friends from New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, that's actually kind of how I have it set up. In the league that I run, I actually just incorporated my mom.
Oh, nice. I tried that one year. It did not work.
Oh, my mom. It was hilarious because she got way into it, like way too much into it. And growing up, I played football for years. I played for like 9 years. So she knows the game, and she knows the positions. But it was just so funny because I'd get a random text message from my mom when we'd be going against each other that week. Mm-hmm. So in fantasy football, your roster goes against another person's roster and it accumulates points, and whoever has the most points wins that week. And then you get a win or a loss. And that's how you kind of go through the systems and rank up against the people you're going against. So I'd get a random text message from my mom, I'm going to kick your butt this week. It's like, oh, here we go. And that's her trash talking. Now, of course, within our little forum, my brother's like, I'm going to kick your ass. And my mom uses butt, of course. And it's just so funny to see her really get into it. I thought, quite honestly, when I was creating the league, I bumped it up to 10 people. My original was 8. I brought in 10. And my mom was hounding me to join. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. You can come in. So, I thought she was going to be a person that just drafted and never looked at it.
That's so cool.
And she actually ended up getting second place, which sucks.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I was pretty ticked off because she beat me, of course.
Yeah. So see, like that's like a perfect example. So like, yeah, she's playing, like she's like getting really into it, but like she knows the positions, but she's not like crazy like in depth. Like I'm sure that to the level that you and I are. So like. And my dad's the same way. Like, he got crazy into it. He had, like, just notes and notes and notes for the draft and, like, just went nuts with it and, like, plays the waiver wire and, like, really gets into it. He won last year, finally. He beat me in the Super Bowl, in fact.
Oh, no.
But that was good. I'm glad that he won that. I've been to the Super Bowl twice now and lost back-to-back. So, third year's a charm. I'm Buffalo Billing it. And I'm going to go in. Well, I'm not going to Buffalo Bill it. I'm going to go in the third time.
Say, so you're going to lose again.
Yeah, I'm going to win. But yeah, so do you use ESPN or Yahoo?
Actually, I use Yahoo for my league, and then I use ESPN for the one I'm in.
I like Yahoo. It works really well.
It does. Both, I think, have its pros and cons, quite honestly. Okay. I feel that Yahoo is easier to navigate. I feel ESPN, though, has more content. And really, like... I mean, both are going to have stats and everything like that, but I feel like ESPN just goes further into comparing things, really being able to see certain stats and everything. Yeah, I felt that was better.
Cool. Yahoo does a thing where they turn your match into like a very strong narrative, and they're like, oh, the the Claymores came in today and fought Ian's team, and they did this, and if only Ian would have played blah blah, would have had a chance. But in the fourth quarter, blah, like they take the stats and they storyize it, and it's really cool. I like the way. Anyway, point is that there's definitely a bunch of different avenues for you if you are starting out for the first time to go into ESPN, to Yahoo. I think those are the top two, and
they're easy,
and they're really easy to get started.
Yeah.
There's mock drafts that you can do. Like there's so much stuff that you can do to just test yourself and to explore and not necessarily like fully commit. There's also leagues that have money. If you're not into that, there's leagues that don't have a money entry. Like you can and usually money entry is like per you'd have to know. Like they don't do that online.
Right.
Online is just for funsies.
It'd be more like our leagues, like the people, like hey, everyone's throwing in $10 at the end, first, second, third kind of thing.
I refuse. I do play the one that I play in is a money in, and what I do is I'm like, look, I'm not putting money in, but I'm also not going to take any money if I win. And what happened is I ended up winning, and I was like, yeah, I'm not taking. So give it back to everybody, or just give it all to second place, because like I don't put money in, therefore it's not fair for me to take it. So that's what we do. Like I just don't. I don't. So there's ways you can talk to people, and like that makes it interesting because people are like, oh, cool. So yeah, if Clayton wins, I'm not mad because I get my money back.
Right. So everyone's rooting for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of fun. And then to answer.
Go ahead.
I was going to answer your question, but that was going to get to the end. I don't know what you were going to ask.
Basically, one reason why I wasn't wanting my mom to join my league is one stipulation is that you have to create a name for your team.
Yeah.
And in my league, it has to be a dirty name.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. So, of course, my mom created something really stupid and funny, actually, at the same time. But, it's just like these raunchy names. And I'm like, I don't want her to see these things, And, of course, when my brother is in my league, of course, David Fry.
David Fry.
That's right.
We got to do a July episode just for him.
And he literally gets the raunchiest names ever. So, of course, when my mom comes in, he amps it up even more. So I'm like, oh, God. So she comes in and she's like, who's this team? And I'm like, Mom, I don't want to hear you say that. Like, that's terrible.
That's awesome.
So, so do you do anything of that sort in your leagues, or just it's kind of...
Nope. People can make up their. I encourage everyone to there's some stipulations in that I want everybody to go into the draft because auto drafting kind of sucks for everyone involved.
Right.
I want you to make a name and come up with an image to put there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I wish Yahoo allows you to make a profile image, but it's so hard to see. I wish it was bigger.
It's tiny.
Yeah. Does ESPN have bigger avatars?
They, the ones that I use are already pre-made, and they're bigger. Okay. Because honestly, at work there's a league, and it's so funny when you sit there and the league that I'm in, there's a few guys at work, and you could see what lineup they're looking at, like looking over at their desk. You're like, oh, he's looking at my lineup.
Nice. All right, so it's that big. That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the only stipulation, and that's it. It's really cool. It's fun. Well, we do have a toilet bowl, so I've gone as far as I've bought a replica wrestling belt, and it's for fantasy football specifically. So it was like $200, but it was well worth it because you can take the plaques and you can engrave them and then just replace them for $9. So the winner, the Super Bowl fantasy football Super Bowl winner, gets that belt for the year, and the loser brackets loser. So the thing is that you can come in the last place at the regular season, and that puts you in a shitty bracket. But if you win in the losers bracket, you're okay. If you lose in the losers bracket, you will get a plunger, and with a permanent marker, I put your name on the plunger to forever to be remembered as the plunger winner. So we have the toilet bowl as well as the Super Bowl. So even the losers get something to fight for, and pray to the gods they don't end up being on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted, and I've been failing at this for years now, but I wanted the winner of the Super Bowl fantasy football Super Bowl to not only have a belt, but then pick how we choose the order.
Okay.
For next year, I got that from the league.
TV
series.
Show.
So is it a scavenger hunt? But it's really hard to get everybody. Everybody has there's a lot of us have kids now, and it's really tough to get everybody organized across 3 different time zones. So I don't know. I would hope that there's a way to do this, but it's been kind of tough. So
Well, yeah, and that's a good idea. Now, granted, we have in my wooden league, pretty much all of us here, but my brother's out of state. So to be able to do something of that sort, we just do a normal draft. It's a random oriented, but I always wanted to do something of that sort. Where just like in a league where they sit there and they try to do all these cool, inventive ways to figure out the order.
yeah.
So, of course, when you're the first pick, you kind of have an advantage. I think the second pick, quite honestly, has the best advantage.
Yeah. Okay.
Only because you can sit there and go, okay, well, they picked this, so I can go ahead and counter it almost. I'm a very counter picker.
And that goes to the question you were asking me. You're like, okay, what is the best position? Blah blah blah. It used to be traditionally running backs, but my strategy is a dynamic one in the fact that like wherever you're picking, sans the first, you need to be reactionary. So if wide receivers start going off the board early, you need to pivot. If you stick with a strategy that says I'm going all wide receivers and like the top 3 go in front of you, and you stick to wide receivers, you're going to hurt yourself. So my last year's strategy was to be dynamic, be reactionary, and I really wanted Antonio Brown. Because my preferred strategy was to go wide receiver, or a quarterback in that platinum bracket that was getting me 500 points. Right, I wanted to hit all the platinum positions. I wanted to get the quarterback, I wanted to get the running back, and the wide receiver platinum before I went anything specific to fill up. Unfortunately, the platinum of quarterbacks and wide receivers both got taken. That left me with Le'Veon Bell and Eddie Lacy on the board, picking like second to last. So I was like, okay, I'm going to absolutely pick up Le'Veon Bell because he's going to be a beast. And he
was, but
he got injured. It's okay.
Yeah.
I had his backup. Then he got injured. That's why I lost the Super Bowl. And then it wrapped back around me, and Eddie Lacy was still on the board. And I was like, I have to take Eddie Lacy. Like, I got to pick him up because he was good the year before. He turned out to be a bust of a pick. But my point is that I wanted to go wide receiver, and what I ended up doing was going running back because in relative to what was left on the board, that was the best pick. So in my opinion, you should be reactionary, you should be dynamic, you shouldn't have one thing that you just are forcing yourself to pick, right? I also go kickers last. In fact, I probably don't even – there are cases where I just don't pick a kicker, and then I'll pick an extra slot and then figure out what kicker I want to take before the game. I used to play defensive rolling every week. I would drop a defense, pick up the defense of the week, and then call it good. I've since changed my league to have 2 defensive positions because of that. Defense was just a joke, and I wanted to make that a little more methodical and important. So now we have 2 defenses, which means you need to keep them. You can't just drop them, and because they're so scarce now, it matters because what's left on the waiver wire is not that good.
So you have 2 defenses. Do you take something off of the offensive side?
I can just add.
Just okay.
Yeah, I just add a second defense, and now
That's
you
pretty
have
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so now going to that kind of end of the spectrum, how late did Tom Brady go in your league last year?
Like 7th round, 6th round.
I
I was kicking myself in the butt because I was like, I could go Tom Brady, but I was like, I got my eye. I look for sleeper picks specifically with quarterbacks because people jump so heavily on quarterbacks early, like Drew Brees and like Manning and all these other things. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I can get a good quarterback because, like we talked about, that platinum to gold gap is huge, but that gold to silver is not that huge. And there's a plethora of quarterbacks in that position. So I went Ryan Tannehill, and I went somebody else. Oh, Sam Bradford. I had a hunch that Sam Bradford was going to play in the Eagles' heavy offense and was going to do well, but he didn't because Chip Kelly's an idiot, and it just didn't pan out. Same thing with Tannehill. Laser was just not that good. So I had an opportunity to take Tom Brady, and I didn't, and that was stupid because the person who took Tom Brady also had Gronk, and they shot out of the gate the first couple of weeks and just did really well, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do to myself? So
well, what's so funny is I picked him up in the 5th round.
It's a great pick. It's such a good pick.
And who did I have as my primary? I had Rivers. So I had Rivers. I'm like, oh man, I got a great quarterback.
Yep.
Now I got a good backup that I just have to wait a few weeks. And literally the next day is when the big headlines came out, that he wasn't suspended anymore.
Yep.
And literally everyone in my league was just like, actually, I got Tom Brady in
Yeah.
both my leagues, and everyone was just like, "What the fuck?" and just screaming, and oh, it was great. I was like, "Ha ha ha!"
Yep.
And he did great. I didn't have Gronk, so every time I went up against my father in my league, he had Gronk, and I was like, "Oh, Tom Brady's gonna do great." He's like, "So is Gronk." So
Yeah.
it's a tough matchup when you have a great quarterback and a great receiver, and one has one and one has the other. So now, kind of going towards that whole aspect of gaming, what positions would you say if you were building a character? Who would be your helmet, like building armor and all that kind of stuff?
Oh,
What
yeah,
would be
yeah.
your sword? What would be
So
basically okay?
I know that I don't understand this analogy.
Okay.
Maybe you can go first, but
Okay, so
because I look at it more of as like a team. Who's your tank? Who's your mage? Who's your that kind
Okay,
of thing?
that-
But maybe I'm wrong. So like I want to hear what your thought is with the armor analogy.
okay, so like your sword or your weapon would be, I would think, like a quarterback.
Why?
Your shield,
Narratively
because-
speaking, or because
just positions compared to what the piece is supposed to do for you, I would imagine. So quarterback touches the ball every play, every single play.
yeah.
So they're going to be your weapon.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because the weapon
So-
is traditionally the first thing you want to upgrade or invest in.
Right. Running back, and see, this is where it gets a little difficult. Okay, so would a running back be like
There's
a helmet?
Maybe.
Okay.
So shoulders maybe are like the more rare thing. I could see running backs be like it's a weird narrative because it's really just all about offense. There's not even really like like you have a defense, but the defense
Yeah.
is making points. It's not stopping someone from having points necessarily. So
But I think defense would be like your chess piece because it's protecting your vital.
but that's wrong too because the chess piece is got a ton of like the HP stat, right? Like it's really the base and
Exactly, a defensive item.
but that's narrative. That's narrative. Like that's not necessarily indicative of like truthfully a defense is like your bracers. And maybe your
Okay.
kicker's your bracers. And like
Yeah, they're just
and,
like,
like-
okay, I need that.
no,
but-
your kicker's the ring. Your defense are the bracers. You know what I mean? Your flex is the cape. And then, you have your triforce of helm, chest, and legs, maybe, or boots.
Receivers.
And that would be your wide receiver, running back, tight end.
Boots would be receiver for sure
Why?
because they're supposed to be quick, light.
So are running backs.
Yeah, but they're getting hit so much they have to. I'm telling you, man, their shoulders.
Doesn't make any sense. It's barely there. I'll give you that. But this
Okay.
is a bad analogy.
So let's go towards yours. Okay, so like your tank, your mage, and you're building a team.
This doesn't work either. This doesn't work either because yeah, okay.
Who would be your healer?
Exactly. It doesn't work. It
Defense?
doesn't. It just doesn't work. Basically, you're making an RPG of like of all thieves or like all of one class, and you're tweaking that class to do maybe it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
A mage is a quarterback for sure.
It doesn't. No, I would think they'd be the tank. They're like the core. I don't know. That's not true.
Defense would be your tank.
Okay, we're done. This isn't it. This is not working because it doesn't make sense. It's just
one point, I'm
different.
gonna
And
bring
if
this
people
back.
if people who play games are expecting to come into fantasy football to play like that, they're gonna be disappointed. It's not that, but it's certainly. It's again. You know what it is? It's like playing. When you raid and you're looking at your DPS meter. It's
Okay.
like how do I build a set of people who are going to? It's basically mages and rogues. How do I make a team of 8 mages and rogues do the most DPS compared to the other group of someone controlling another group of rogues and mages, because there's like slightly different roles and dynamics, but at the end of the day, you're looking to see who has the most points, right? And they're
Right.
all contributing. It's all exponential, right?
Yep.
So it's not even about like counters and passive stuff and like really role based either. Like yes, in football they have different roles, but it all comes down to like who is making. It'd be interesting if you can construe or remake the fantasy football into more of a battle between the two, because it's not even a battle. You're just saying I'm going to watch this group of individuals, and you're going to watch this group of individuals, and whoever actually makes the most points will win. Very rarely do those group of individuals actually have any bearing or influence on the other group of individuals' points, right? Unless you were playing a quarterback on one team and the other guy's playing the defense on the other team. Then you have an actual battle and you're rooting, right? But usually that does not happen. And it would be really cool if you could figure out a way to make that happen.
So now you bring up an interesting point. Fantasy football brings out a lot of emotion, a shit ton of emotion, okay? And not only that, of course, Clay, I'm sorry, you're a Titans fan.
I've been getting that a lot lately.
And of course, I'm sorry for myself, I'm a Bears fan. So when I sit there, and I love football, I've always loved it, and I sit there and watch it, but like last year, I had Cobb, a receiver for the Green Bay Packers. So I'm sitting there watching the Bears and Packers game. I absolutely hate the Packers. But it's just like,
root for Cobb.
Cobb catches a touchdown pass. I'm like, yes, but son of a bitch, that sucks. You know, I'm like, it's such a weird feeling sometimes. You know.
Luckily, I have that exact same feeling. Luckily, the Titans have been so bad that I don't care. I end up just rooting for whoever's on my fantasy football team. I feel like that's going to be changing pretty soon because look out, the Titans are definitely going to be Super Bowl contenders very, very soon. We're also coming up
2 or 3 years.
We're also coming up to the end of this topic. Do we want to give our top 12 players very quickly and compare them? Just quickly compare them.
Okay, I'll let you go first. I got to pull mine up here for a second.
My top person is Antonio Brown. Wide receiver is going to make a ton of points. He's not going to get injured that much, so he's going to be consistent. And the Steelers have a better O-line, and so injuries should be less severe. I think Antonio Brown is the number one character that's going, or number one football player that's going to give you points. He's going to bring you to the playoffs alone. It's about surrounding him then with enough talent to win the Super Bowl. My second one is Andre Hopkins. You can see a theme. It's wide receivers. They don't get injured that often. They stay consistent, and they're also bringing in a ton of points. Hopkins had nobody to play with last year. He now has a better quarterback, a better running game. The O-line suffered a tiny bit, but he also has a better surrounding cast. I think he's just going to get propelled into Antonio Brown territory. Third up, Odell Beckham. Boom, 3 wide receivers in a row.
Off the bat?
I think that Odell Beckham is going to benefit from the surrounding cast around him. Eli Manning and the rest of the group have only gotten better. They have a new coach, a fresh new system, less tape on that system. They're going to come out with swinging, and I think he is definitely a person that you want to get. Next, AP. Another theme is consistency. In fantasy football, you do not want the spikes of the 1 week to lure you into a trap of 5 weeks of no points. AP is consistent. He'll get you 10 points. Minnesota had to adjust their offense last year with AP coming back. They now have a whole year underneath him. I think they're going to really find a groove coming out of the gates, and they've only improved since last year.
Not many people might know who AP is. Adrian Peterson.
Sixth is Todd Gurley. He was the rookie last year for the Rams. I have him this low and this far behind far behind AP and Bell because he teared off last year. People now have tape on him. I don't think he will be as explosive. They have a rookie quarterback, which means the pressure is just going to be on him. It's basically a continuation of last year, and I didn't see him necessarily explode at the end of the year. He kind of was a little injured, so we'll see how that goes. Seventh, David Johnson for the Cardinals. I think he could potentially be pretty good, so we'll see how that works. Des Bryant is coming up at number 8. I think he'll have a bounce back here with Romo healthy. The line solid. They have running backs now with Ezekiel Elliott. They have a couple more wide receivers in their core. I think he has a chance to really come back and have a rebound year. Next up is Devontae Freeman. I believe that is the Atlanta running back that he exploded last year. Actually, might want to put him above David Johnson, but we'll see about that because Atlanta has some questions on offense. Number 10, Allen Robinson. This mother is a great wide receiver over in the Jaguars. The Jaguars are going to be crazy good. Their defense is going to get their offense back on the field, and their offense is really clicking right now. They have Chris Ivory on running back, so the running back improved. Their O-line is getting better, and they have Allen Robinson, and they have Blake Bortles, who are really connecting a lot, and he's going to, I think, really show himself to be a great person to pick up. you'll notice that I have left Julio Jones out till now. He is behind, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers, and this is because Julio Jones is a flashy pick in name only. Everybody falls into the trap of picking Julio Jones thinking that this is his year, this is when he's going to be really good, and every year he consistently disappoints. He comes out the gate really strong for like 2 games, and then it's just downhill from there. He'll get you like 8 points, 7 points consistently, and then maybe flash 12 and then go back down to 4. Like, I don't trust Julio Jones. Clap and praise be to the person that you praise when someone in front of you picks Julio Jones, leaving someone like Allen Robinson available for you, because you will benefit in the long run, trust me. Last to round out the first round is Jamal Charles. He's coming out in ACL. It's a little bit of a risk. However, if he comes back, which he has had plenty of time to heal, he should be a good pickup, and because it's risky, he's going to bring him down at the end of the first round when he traditionally, remember, is a first overall pick. So if you can get him for the last pick in the first round, he's dropped 11 spots. You're getting a first overall talent in the very end or beginning of second round. It's a great pickup. So that is my picks.
Very nice. I like him.
Yep.
You had some really good ones there. I go a little bit of a different route on my 12 here.
Okay.
You started out with a shit ton of receivers. I just think there's too many receivers out there that you can pick up some and still get by. I think the first thing off is traditionally, of course, a running back, and I think Bell is my first pick. Great running back, does really well. I'm kind of torn between him and Gurley, so I'd pick one of those two, like right off the bat.
I had both of them last year, and I lost the Super Bowl.
Well, that's because late, Bell got injured, came back, and then got injured again, or slightly injured, right?
He was just straight up injured.
Yeah. So Gurley, of course,
He
came out.
Yeah, but he started falling off at the end. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, he did. Now, I would probably go Adrian Peterson over him. But, okay, so my number one I'm going to say is Bell. Great running back, very fast. I mean, literally, if he gets the slightest crack, he's gone. So my number two, I have to go with a powerful tight end and say Gronkowski. I mean, that's literally having a great... The points he puts up are so stupid.
That's stupid. No. Okay, I'm sorry. You didn't do this to me, so I'll let you go.
No, that's fine. So number three, you got to go with quarterback, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I think he did great in coming off last year. He's going to be explosive and doing his thing again. I think that their offense knows what they're doing with him, and I think he'll put up some really good points. So next has to be JR. I mean, if you really think about it, the junior, you know what I'm talking about.
JR?
Yeah, Odell Beckham.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's just getting better.
Over Antonio Brown?
Only because on the Giants, dude, he is the Giants receivers. Now, I mean, Antonio Brown, if you think about it, you have, can't think of his name, the quarterback.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger, yeah. He has a few other talents. And not only that,
okay, fair.
I mean, think about it. You got Bell in the backfield. So, granted, Brown does put up points. He does.
Yeah.
But I think Odell Beckham is going to be more of a target for the Giants. He's going to be their guy. You know, he's going to be a very heavy tool.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because there's okay. We got to wrap up, but
okay, that's fine. So then I go to Hopkins.
Nice.
Of course. I think you got to start loading up on your receivers. Next, I would say Bryant. So at that point, Des Bryant, another great receiver. Have him in up on your list there. And then I'm thinking Jamal Charles. Did great in KC. Mm-hmm. He put up some crazy points, got injured, and I think he's going to come back with a vengeance. He is going to be that offense. You have Smith in the backfield, who's another great player, your quarterback. But at that point, I would say my next pick is going to be a defense, and you have to go with Seattle's defense.
Defense in the first round?
Oh, no. Oh, I thought we were going through our picks that we're going to go through each round.
I just did top 12 of the first round.
Oh, my bad.
So this is cool. So, people get to hear my top 12, and people get to hear your top picks of each round. So that's great.
Exactly. So each round, this is kind of like what I'm thinking there.
Okay.
So Let's see here. Then I'm gonna go with the kicker. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
You think AP is going to drop to the second round?
I think so.
Wow. I play with a bunch of Minnesota Viking fans, so that's probably why.
That's probably why. Yeah, right there.
He goes like number 1 overall.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh, jeez. Ingram, great running back.
Ugh, hate that pick. Go ahead.
I know you do. The only problem is that at that point, I think it's going to be scarce on running backs. So
That's a good point.
I think I'm at 8 or 9. So let's see here. I would then think everyone has to go with more running backs because that's going to be people getting injured and everything of that sort. So if it's available, Forte, now he's with the Jets. So I think him going to a different offense and using him as because I mean, honestly, the Jets, you had Fitzpatrick and everything. He did great, but having Forte in the backfield, it's just going to really explode that team. Then, you could always go a backup quarterback, maybe like Russell Wilson or Andrew Luck. The only problem with Luck, though,
backup quarterback. You're talking about starters.
Oh, yeah, I know. But if you're thinking about like an 8 or 10 man league.
In the 8th, 9th round, Andrew Luck and Wilson are going to be gone.
They're gone, yeah.
Luck's going in the first round.
Yeah, I think he would. But I'm saying, like, if you could pick up a backup, who would be a great backup?
Ryan Tannehill would be worth thinking about because now he has Gase, and Gase made Cutler look amazing, and Cutler's traditionally looked like crap for the last 4 years.
No.
Don't pick Cutler for that matter because he doesn't have Gase anymore. Another interesting backup would be Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick, if he gets signed back on the Jets, he would be an interesting candidate.
I think Carr. I mean, he did good last year.
Yep, Carr would be great. Blake Bortles.
Actually, I think he's close to a starter, honestly.
But he's a sleeper, and he can be taken as a starter in the backup round.
True.
And then, I think Roethlisberger and I think what's-his-face from the Cardinals is going to get picked up early, too.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, that's pretty much my picks and everything. Cool. So.
Well, let's go on to our next topic because we went really long over there, and I think that's your topic.
Yeah. Hold on.
Silly phones.
Yeah. Basically, what I was doing is people are so wrapped up in their cell phones and their electronic devices that they don't enjoy the moment. I've been to concerts and I've sat there and watched people for 2 hours go like this. It's like you're not even watching the actual concert. You're watching it through your phone. I understand the phones and everything. They're getting better with their video recording and pictures and all this other stuff. But honestly, I've had people come up to me like, "Hey, I went to the concert. Oh, check out this video I had," and it's terrible. It sounds terrible the whole time. It's like they're on a roller coaster, and it's like I don't give two shits about this,
Yeah.
And so what you're just proving to me is that you sat there for like 20 minutes filming this, watching it through your phone. Why didn't you just have it in your pocket and enjoy it? Like it's fun and be like, hey, this happened, and I had a great experience. So.
And how often do you go back to look at that?
Never.
Yeah.
Because I did that once. Honestly, it was years and years ago.
Yeah.
I went to a Tom Petty concert, and I was sitting there recording it, and I sent it to my brother. He's like, "What the hell is that?" He's like, "All I see is like a black space with a little light and just a bunch of noise." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm at the Tom Petty concert." He's like, "Yeah, that's terrible." And I never went back and looked at the video.
Yeah.
So, and I got mad at myself. I'm like, "That's a great song. That's the song I wanted to sit there and listen to," and I was so wrapped up in filming it that I didn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah. Just take pictures. Just maybe one or two, and you're good.
Yeah. And, and so now what I do is at a concert or a big event, I don't even take out my phone. Actually, I put it on silent, and just have it in my pocket. And it's funny because if I'm out with a buddy at a concert or something, my wife might be trying to call me and she gets so furious at me. Like, why didn't you call me or da-da? I'm like, I'm at a fucking concert, it's loud. What do you want me to be screaming in the phone talking to you? Well, so I literally just wrap myself in the moment instead.
Yeah.
So, and do you think that, do you come across that a lot with people?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think that people, it doesn't bother me, and I have an issue. I take an issue when people. So I disagree a little bit in the sense that like people are so wrapped up in their technology and their heads are in their face. And there's this amazing photo of people on the bus today, and it's down the aisle of a bus, and everybody's head is down and in looking at their phones.
Right.
Then there's a photo of like the 1940s of a bus, and every single person has their head down in newspaper. And I was like, look, nothing's changed. We as humans want to be wrapped up in something when we have downtime. That's just who we are. The difference is that this technology is new and we're seeing it for the first time. And so it feels like, oh man, look, do you notice that there's cell phones now? Yeah, and everybody's head is in. It's cool, great. What you have been desensitized to is the fact that everybody's head was down in a magazine or newspaper before it. The only difference is that the medium has changed, and that feels different and new and like scary because, oh, does that mean there's been a change? But there hasn't. It's been consistent. And so, I think a question is, do we as people tend to get wrapped up in things like that as opposed to be enjoying the present? And I think that is a valid argument because I would agree with that. I think as humans it's not the fact that it's cell phones or technology, it's the fact that we tend to do that. And whether it's a phone or something else, like it wasn't a phone before, it was like it was an actual video camera before or a Kodiak camera before that, right? Like people were wrapped up in just trying to document that. So like, yeah, I think we just as people tend to do that too often. I think you make really great points as to why you shouldn't, and you should just enjoy the present. I think more people really do need to worry about the present. I think that comes with practicing, meditation and mindfulness. And I think we're starting to see that come into schools today and be implemented in the workspace because, it's not that it's fairly new, but it's fairly new as being adopted. And I think we're starting to see a lot of positive effects. And, it takes a while to get studies and collect data, but we are seeing things of that nature produce great positive results. So I think as more and more people in our culture becomes a little bit more mindful, I think people will really start to breathe and step back and be in the present a little bit more and enjoy those things.
Well, and I definitely agree with all of that. So my other end of the spectrum is that people will sit there and drive and be on their phone, texting, being on Facebook. Who knows what they're doing? Yeah. And I was gonna say I'm guilty of it. I've texted while driving and stuff like that, and it's terrible. There's times where I'm like, oh shit. Like you get a close call and I'm like, I throw my phone in the seat. I'm like, I'm not looking at that ever again. Yeah. But of course, next time I'm driving,
yeah.
But and that's the other
causes
end of
more
it
deaths than a lot of things.
Yeah, and so you sit there and you think about it, but and a great point. I've seen that picture of everyone on the bus with their head in their phone and then the newspaper. But back then, you didn't see people driving a car with the newspaper up in front of them.
I don't know, man. Did you? How do you know? You weren't there.
True. I did watch one time. I sat there and watched a lady hold a book like this when she was driving.
That's my point.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
That's exactly my point. If it's not a phone, if it's not a cell phone, it's a book. If it's not a book, it's a magazine. If it's not a magazine, it's makeup. If it's not makeup, it's food. If it's not food, it's coffee. Like people, we have this need to just be immersed constantly or multitask, and that produces like terrible like problems and
habits
so
and
and maybe arguably phones make it even more accessible than something like food or a magazine or a book. So absolutely there should be like some issue with that, but like I think it's also an issue of just mindfulness and being in the present. And you know what? Self-driving cars are going to fix all this. So
true.
It's not a big deal there.
Wait, Google's on its way for that, right?
Amazon, Google, Tesla already has a self-driving car.
That's crazy. But then think about this, what you could do. That's diving into a bunch of other crazy stuff.
Yeah,
so,
there's a lot that you can do there.
But really, with being immersed in the world and everything. So, and honestly, I get a lot of crap from a lot of my friends and everything. They're like, hey, you didn't answer your phone. Like, yeah, I don't have to answer it every time you call.
Yeah.
And people get mad at me about that. I'm like, not everyone didn't have cell phones back in the day. You answer the phone when you're able to. If I'm in a conversation with someone or something like that, I'll just not even look at my phone and silence it. My wife all the time is like, I just tried calling you. Okay, well, hey, I'm doing this, so I can give you a call afterwards.
Yeah.
Granted, I still don't win that argument, but
For sure. I know exactly what you're talking about.
and because my thing is that I want to give that person or whatever I'm doing 100% of my attention. So I don't need to be wrapped up in it. And and people, like I said, will sit there and go, oh, hey, you didn't answer your phone, or you didn't call me back, you didn't text me back. Yeah, because I'm doing other things. I'm busy. I'm not going to answer every call, every text message right away. And then there's a lot of people that are like me that I've talked to. They're like, oh, I do the same thing. Granted, yeah, I'll see a text message and not reply right away because I'm busy. So, and I made that a point when I started realizing, like I was at the concert and I'm sitting there filming. This was what had to be close to 10 years ago. So, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to live my life through my phone. I want to just live my life.
I think that's a really great realization that you have, and I think that the more things we can do to help people have that realization, because that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to take an individual's thought process to really get to that point. And I envy that you're able to have that, like, to get to that point and have that willpower and an understanding of what you want to do. And there's some people that just that's what they like. They don't like necessarily like walking down the street and talking to strangers. They want to listen to Pandora. They want to like go and listen to a book as they walk. Like it's also interesting to note that with the advances of technology and new lifestyles that are available to us, it will fill niches that we thought we didn't need, that people will be attracted to, and we are hard to accept it because it wasn't the status quo. But now that we can listen to podcasts when we walk, who's to say that that's not, who's to say that that's unacceptable?
Maybe you're listening to it now.
Maybe you're listening to a podcast right now in the Maelstrom Gamers, and you're like, I want to walk down and take a walk and listen to podcasts as opposed to listening to the birds chirp and the trees rustle. Like, this is just what I want to do right now, and that's what I find important. And who's to say that, that's wrong? So, yeah, there's definitely people who are like, blah, blah. Now, when it gets into other people, like, it's such a like tightrope walking gray area, thin red line that that I feel like we would take issue with and not take issue with something. So I gave an example of, this is someone doing them. It's fine when you are not affecting other people or wanting to affect other people. The second that it is a causation of affecting somebody else, that doesn't sound right. But like, for instance, when your friends are like, dude, you need to get back to me, it's like, okay, that is a perfect example of how technology has been a negative impact on our society, because it is enabling people to put pressure on you and expectations on you, which is not right. That's wrong, and that is definitely a problem. But on the flip side, yeah, if you just want to take a walk and someone's like, you shouldn't do that because that's wrong, fuck you. I'm not harming anybody or implementing having implications to anybody else's lifestyle. I'm walking, I'm listening, I'm not talking. That's what I want to do, right? I'm not being rude to anybody. I'm alone on this one.
I'm just doing my thing.
Exactly, just doing your thing. Like, I think that's fine. So, yeah, there's two different sides of the coin, I think. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, of course. And it's crazy that I just feel that we get so wrapped up into it these days. What's the saying? My online life is so much cooler than my actual life.
But that's my point, is that I think as technology is advancing and we have different lifestyles emerge, your real life and your online life are more the same thing than they ever were and have been before.
Previously, yeah.
So your life is now part of online, and so like as you choose to be. So like I don't know, that's just something we need to deal with, and we as a culture need to there's definitely boundaries as there is with real life stuff, you know what I mean? Like your friend just doesn't come over, you know what I mean? And is like knock on your door and be like, dude, I came over, where were you? And you're like, I was on vacation. You should have checked with me first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So someone to text you and just expect you to drop everything is something that we need to get used to and like set boundaries for as a culture, but that just takes time.
Right. And I think time will definitely weed out a lot of those issues that we have. And like I said, I try to be, I guess, thoughtful on all of that and make sure that I don't let that incorporate my life.
It's really cool, and it's tough too, because I don't know how. It's hard. You have to set those boundaries. So like when we're all like, "Hey, Ian, where the hell are you? We're playing." Like,
Yeah.
you're doing something, and so like, it's important to know. Be like, and it's hard too to like set that boundary. It's like you have to be like, "Look, guys, I'm doing something. So if I don't answer, don't bug me, or don't get mad at me. Like I am off doing something. So just know if I don't respond, I'm clearly doing something else. I'm not ignoring you, right? And that's important to know. And it sucks that you have to do it, but hopefully over time, like you said, that will just be the norm.
And when you think that my wife would know that too, after so many years, I'm kidding.
Hey, great.
And
Okay, I thought we were gonna end there.
yeah. And that's it.
Let's do. You want to do some news?
Let's do it.
All right. So our final topic is going to be a pilot for something that we hopefully want to do eventually. So if you guys enjoyed it, let us know. But what we're gonna do is, man, I'm gonna change this. We need a 2-minute like timer thing that goes purr when it goes off. So I think I'm gonna do bulletin. Did that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually, I mean, for me at least, I can hear it pretty well. So.
Oh wow, no, I'm not doing that. All right, let's do bulletin. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Cool.
Setting it. Okay, so here is our timer. So you can hear it. You said right, really well.
Yep.
I'll try to put it up closer to the mic. At 2 minutes, we are done with this topic. So we're gonna have a couple topics that we're gonna run down. And when we are done, when 2 minutes are up, we are done. And we move on to the next one.
Yeah, this is kind of inspired by PTI. Yeah. So hopefully it goes well, and I think you guys will enjoy it.
All right, so let's get started here. Oculus Rift as early as March, when you had a Vive, an HTC Vive, which is the Valve's 3D VR experience, you could download Oculus apps and play them. Then in around May or April, Oculus applied DRM to their software and was disallowing people who had a different VR headset to play Oculus apps. Recently now, though, Oculus has Polygon and Kotaku have reported that Oculus has lifted the DRM restrictions completely and allowed people who have a Vive to play Oculus apps. I think this is pretty cool.
Great.
I think you need to do this. I don't like splitting the small niche market as it is right now into 4 different separate VR headsets only is only going to hinder the consumer's experience and hinder the developers' outreach to get great games and apps in front of people to help build this industry and what it needs to be, right? So it's in their best interest to share and allow people to experience it across platform.
And if you think about it, I mean, it's literally not really groundbreaking, but it's bringing back virtual reality. And they all kind of have to get together and work as a team to build this, or it's just going to fall flat on its face.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're going to sit there and then go, oh, I have my stuff, you have your stuff. It's just like the beginning of gaming, quite honestly. Granted, yeah, now you have consoles, but at first, you really just want to build that core group of people. So if you hinder it and kind of put those restrictions on it, people won't flock to it. I'm already kind of skeptical about it. I don't think I'm not a big virtual reality guy. I don't like going to see 3D movies and stuff like that as well. So if you really think about it, build it, work as a team.
Yeah, work as a team. And look, the current and like the other thing too is Oculus is going to get really they're going to get bad PR flack. The Vive doesn't have this. A lot of the people don't have this, so we should open it up.
Right, and if they all work
we're out of time. We got to start. We got to go next. All right, you're up.
Okay, so Clash of Clans was just bought by Tencent, which has a major stake in League of Legends. They're stating that they're going to keep the game or the what is it? Supercell, Supercell, as its own entity and everything. They're going to still work and do everything on their own, so they say. So it's going to really, I think it might bring a little bit of change to the game at some point. But they actually bought 84.3%. 84. So they are 84.
Wow.
Yeah. So a huge stake in it. So honestly, in the past, when other things are bought and everything, yeah, you're gonna have some influence on it. So, do you play Clash of Clans? I don't know if you
I played it for 2 years straight, never spent a dime, and it took me 2.5 years to get to the second to last tier.
Right, I did the same exact thing. I'm weird. I don't like to pay. I'll pay $60 for a game, but I
Yeah.
won't pay $2
We're
in
old
a
school, man.
Yeah. So it's
Tencent. So you mentioned they own Riot,
right.
and
Yep.
then
Or their major stake, yeah, in Riot, pretty much.
yeah. So sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought that was timer. I'm sorry.
Nope. That was.
Okay. So, with that being said, so is it now maybe is League of Legends gonna kind of get influenced by them, or what's gonna happen there? What do you think?
No. League of Legends has been owned, or has Tencent has had stock in League of Legends for a long time, and they have proven
Right.
time and time again that Tencent is just interested in acquiring companies so that they can reap some benefits. They also have stake in Glue. They have stake in a bunch of companies. They
Right.
do not. They do not force things. They let the companies do their thing. So I don't think we'll see any difference in Supercell's day-to-day activity.
Good.
They've tried a bunch of times, and in the past for publishers to do this, and it always fails. So I think Tencent is definitely pretty up to date. So let's get started to the next one. You heard that bell, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I gotcha.
So IGN has reported that Microsoft has tried partnering with Nintendo and Sony before making the Xbox. What they say is that they've interviewed Xbox co-creator Ed Fries, and he said when they first started thinking about doing the Xbox, they met with Nintendo and they sat down with Iwata, and they were like, look, this is like, if you guys want to do the hardware, we just want to do the
Software.
They just wanted to
the-
do the infrastructure for the server support and stuff because they had
Right.
a lot of experience. They're like, look, we can do a really great like live experience, multiplayer experience for you guys. They said no, and so then after that they went to Sony and was like, look, Sony, if you
Competitor,
want, like they
yep.
want to do the same deal, they were like, look, can we work together? Because Bill Gates actually sat down with Sony and was just like, like we just want to basically do the server infrastructure. And they said they didn't want that deal either. And so if they were like, look, if they're not going to want to do it, then we'll just go back to the drawing board and be like, look, can we create our own hardware? And so they did. And, naturally it was very fascinating because their deal was this multiplayer live experience. And it was the foundation for the Xbox and what really helped Xbox set itself apart from all the different consoles at the time and propel it into 360's era of great multiplayer shooter games, and really help it kind of lead the pack in that time. Against
Great
the
is in your
PS3.
opinion. Okay.
I would argue that 360 had a better life than the PS3 for sure.
Right. And it's crazy that that's how it all kind of started, and they pretty much created their own competitor.
Yeah.
By
saying no.
work with them. Yeah. So and in the world of business, that's crazy. And
For Sony, but for Nintendo, it made a lot of sense. The Nintendo was off doing its own thing.
right, exactly. And I think Sony would have reaped more benefits, or actually probably Nintendo at this point, because
Yes.
if you really think about it,
Nintendo's online system is terrible.
yeah, it's horrible. So and with that being said, we'll go into our next topic, which is Zelda having a multiplayer platform,
Oh,
which will be crazy. I mean,
Zelda's never had. Zelda has a multiplayer before.
They have.
With the Four Swords, but I
Oh.
don't have a lot of info on that.
yeah, I don't either. It was that was on that was still on Wii, but they're kind of going more towards I think like of a more multiplayer competitive in Zelda,
Wow.
which I think that might be a great route to go.
Yeah.
So think about that. Almost have like a Smash Brothers kind of style to it, which would be, I think, very good for Nintendo. And not only that, have Zelda a huge name, a huge history, and giving it that competitive edge in the multi-realm. Because what other games do they really have that's a good multiplayer game?
Sure, I don't think Smash Brothers is the way to go. I think you want to be different than that. I think if you look at, I think Skyrim had some multiplayer, but if you look at those open world games that have multiplayer like GTA, and I'll bet it's going to be really different. But I think you can actually get more game modes associated with that, like capture the flag, things like that. Like I think that could be really fun for a Zelda game, incorporating environmental puzzles and stuff like that. I think would be really fun, and I think would be a great addition to a game that's already being regarded as the most innovative Zelda, since the 3D incarnation, right? So yeah, I'm really excited about what that can do. You can also look at Uncharted or Tomb Raider for inspiration in what maybe multiplayer can be like.
Right. And the other thing is that with this Zelda game, actually, I'm even thinking about just buying a Wii now because I don't even have a Wii, and the new system that's coming out with this Zelda, I'm like, okay, I'm willing to almost at this point say I want to give it a shot.
Yeah,
you know?
but if you think about what it would cost you for one game, you're talking about $260.
I know.
Maybe even more. Maybe 310. How much is? I don't know how much a Wii U is these days, but
I don't know.
It's expensive.
We'll find out when I buy it.
Yeah. Speaking of the next console, the Nintendo Next, aptly named, is rumored to be using cartridges. We have a history of Nintendo using cartridges. The biggest one is when Nintendo had the opportunity to go to discs during the N64 era, and PlayStation went discs instead. And PlayStation benefited heavily from it, from having better performance, bigger memory, being able to do higher graphics and stuff like that. So there's a lot of pros to going discs. For Nintendo to use cartridges feels like a step backwards, in my opinion.
Right.
It does two things. It feels like it's a step backwards, but it also feels like they're only doing it. Like, this is going to be a handheld system. It is going to be a 3DS predecessor. And if that's the case, then I'm looking at the Wii U as an investment that I might want to get behind and buy a Legend of Zelda. But which by the way is also, I think, confirmed for the Next. If the Next is not a handheld system and is the next big system, it's going to be cartridge-based. It seems, again, a step back from the Wii U because it has a lot of hindering. Load times are better, sure, but they can't put as much on there.
Right, and it might protect, CDs and everything. You get scratched, they're done. Cartridge, you can ding up.
Cartridge is also the brick-and-mortar style to look at it. Like, everything is going digital these days. Why are they not accepting that? It seems very odd to me.
True. Yeah, because, everything is downloadable, and you don't even need, actually, a physical item. You can go that route. Maybe they might incorporate that, but what are we getting back into? Am I going to be blowing into a cartridge and going back and forth and just get it perfect like I did on my Nintendo?
Yeah.
It's my original Nintendo that, or it definitely is a step back. Why would they want to go that route? It doesn't make sense.
It's cheaper. No, I don't even think it's cheaper at this point. I think discs would be way cheaper.
More expensive.
Yeah, so I really don't understand this call at all.
Cool. So, with that being said, PS4 and Xbox and everything, their competitors, a lot of things have been released with their exclusives for this year for their games. So, to kind of run down the list a little bit here. Now, of course, I'm an Xbox guy. Clay, of course, you're an Xbox guy. I'm a PlayStation guy. Yeah. So, it could sound a little heavy-handed here because there's a huge list of PlayStation 4 that has exclusives on theirs. And honestly, on Xbox's side, they only have a select few. You have Gears of War, of course, is one. But Cobalt, I don't know if you've heard of that, Quantum Break, and Super Hot are your three real exclusives for Xbox One to release this year, at least. So it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be very competitive. Those games better live up to their hype. Yeah. I've only really heard of Quantum Break. I haven't heard of the other two. But if we're looking at PlayStation side, they got a game called Amplitude, The Witness, Mega Dimension, what is it, Digimon Story? I know people are really into that. I'm not really big into that. Digimon, that's it. Okay. Gravity Rush, Firewatch, Street Fighter 5. Think about that.
That's already out.
Is it already out?
Yeah.
Okay. So, MLB The Show is already out. There's Ratchet and Clank, of course, and a bunch of others. So,
Ratchet and Clank is the only one that really stands out to me as something that's really kind of pushing it over the edge. I think, I'm not really too concerned about the differences between the exclusivities of the consoles. I'm also not a big fan of exclusivities either.
Yeah, and I don't get that. Just release it for everything. There was a game a long time ago that only came out on Xbox. It was one of the first games. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a kind of an action RPG. And is that the timer?
Yep. You can wrap up though.
Oh, so it was an action RPG that I really wanted to play, but it was only on Xbox, and I never got to play it. And it was based in Roman times, and it pissed me off. So
yeah, they're no help to anybody.
Right.
So speaking of disappointments, IGN has asked the question: is Number 9 the biggest disappointment of a game of this year or ever, for that matter? And I have to wonder that myself. The reviews are coming out. Polygon has given the review a not so good score of 5.0 across the board. IGN has not giving it that good of a score as well. The Metacritic average score is 56, a user score of 4.2. Game Machine 68 out of 100. Xbox Achievements 55. GameSpot 50. A lot of these people are just destroying it across the board. It's a little bit. It's crazy to think about, and I think that is the biggest disappointment. Infumame got Kickstarter backed. It took him 3 years, multiple delays. He's shattered the Kickstarter, so he had plenty of money. It sounded like he was trying to make a AAA game with an indie.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, with a indie budget, and it was just stretched too thin, and it was too ambitious. I think this is a lesson in scope, and he needed to just really focus the quality in small increments, and I think we would have had a better game. But instead, we have a pretty buggy game that doesn't feel right, and just including there's a ton of things that people have tried to get back, get their rewards from, and they still haven't gotten it. So the whole thing is a mess, a disorganized mess, and a horrible just execution.
It reminds me of. It's like a spin-off to me of like a Mega Man. It's a platform. It's a good game.
Well, this is the creator of Mega Man.
Right, and the thoughts were there. I think the execution was not. It was like you said, buggy. People are not happy with it. I think it's going to fall on its face, and it's going to be a great disappointment. And that's what's going to suck is that not everyone's going to get their money's worth.
I think it is the biggest disappointment with the promise of what it was, with the build-up, and with the people behind it.
Correct. Yep. Next topic?
Yep.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go with here, the heavy MOBA world. MOBAs are, of course, a platform of game where you have to... It's typically a 5 versus 5. You have waves, you have mobs, and everything of that sort. So with updates that are coming out now, like Smite just got a big update, and literally their interface is pretty much exactly like League of Legends. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting... same style games, different type of experience. You have, of course, Smite, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, Paragon, which is another great game, which I have been playing. Watch the stream. And a lot of these games typically are free to play, and you can buy in-game content. That's how they're going to kind of generate their money. But so with all this being said, with these updates and everything now, what games, like I've played almost all of them, or majority of the big names. Mm-hmm. There's such a heavy competition in it now. Mm-hmm.
And the cream rises to the top, and I think League of Legends will and always is still and will probably always be for a very long time the top MOBA. I think it is a niche market that while it is ginormous for people to watch. It's still a niche market for people to play and follow. It's just like any football organization trying to compete with NFL. They are going to fail because while it has a very large audience, that audience is there's only room for one. And I think Dota is sticking around because there's a hardcore cult following, and that's great.
Right.
But games have tried again and again now to get into the mobile market because of the money it produces, and I think it is failing. It is just like all the clones that came out with World of Warcraft during the MMO craze, and unless you were completely different and hit a different niche market, you're going to fail, and all these games are trying to be the MOBA that League of Legends is, and they're failing.
Boom.
Next up, we have the Steam Summer Sale, guys. It is here till July 4th, so please take advantage of it. It is amazing, man. Every time a Steam sale comes out, my wallet is running thin. I just got Darkest Dungeon, I got Mark of the Ninja, and I got Rogue Legacy for $24. These games are great. I mean, there's some big ones on here. Left 4 Dead 2, 80% off, $3.99. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, we got what else? Final Fantasy franchise. All the Final Fantasy franchise games are 50% off. The Division, 25% off for $44.99. There's some really great games here. Let's see.
We got Doom is 40% off for $35.99. Fallout 4 is $29.99 for 50% off. You have, let's see.
This has to be amping their sales. I mean, big time.
Oh yeah, they do it every year. The Stick of Truth, $7.49 for 29. That was $29.99, so 75% off. Undertale $6.99 at 30% off. Let's see, some games that are under $5. We got Battle Block Theater, which I was playing for $2.99. We have
Nice.
Witcher 3 is on sale. Hotline Miami for $3.74. We got Hand of Fate for $7.49. The Witcher 2 for $2.99.
Did you just say Witcher 3 is under $5?
No. The Witcher 3 has its own
Okay.
sale,
Percentage?
I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff up there. I think these summer sales are great for everybody that is into games, and I really enjoy every time it comes around.
Yeah, because you can sit there and even go to throw back some old games that you want to play. You're like, oh, I remember playing that. A few bucks, $2, whatever.
Yeah,
You
The
know,
Witcher 3
oh,
is
I can have that-
50% off, $25.
Yeah.
If you haven't
Well,
played it yet, check it out. I mean, you're not going to find it cheaper than that.
Right, and that's what I like about these sales, is that you can really re-experience those games that you haven't played in years, you know.
Yep.
So it'll be a good idea to purchase.
Totally.
Alrighty, so our last topic here on this little thing that we're doing here today is Counter-Strike being sued, which is crazy. I know you've heard about this, Clay.
Yep.
And basically what it is that it's due to illegal gambling that surrounds the CSGO, which is crazy because it is, from reading and finding out about it, it's reportedly part of a $2 billion business. So, like, that's insane. That's so much money. So, to really dive into it, it's all about in-game content like skins and items and stuff like that being used as like a currency. You know, you can unlock things and kind of trade with people for real money. So, Valve, basically the suit alleges directly profits from transactions that are tied to gambling. So with this being said, it's a huge market that even teenagers are a part of, like getting into gambling.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation. Online gambling has just really brought itself a ton of controversy, especially with the fantasy football stuff that we were talking about earlier. The country doesn't really know how to regulate it because it's this online atmosphere. So there certainly is some stuff that they need to figure out and kind of find to see if stuff is really illegal or not. If people are taking advantage of it, or are they finding loopholes, or is it a scam kind of deal?
Right.
So it's really it's interesting. It's a newer thing that people need to figure out.
Yeah, and they're allowing like Steam to link to third parties, and that's why this is all happening. And they knowingly know this is happening. So, and that's the other crazy part, is that with this lawsuit, is it going to trickle down into other games or under other creators? It could open up Pandora's box.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what you have for the 2 minutes per topic. It is a round robin of stuff. This was really good. So this is us doing the news as our final topic. And that is going to be it for the Everything and Nothing show. As always, you can check out each topic 1 through 5, Monday through Friday, and the full episode with all the topics are on Saturday on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Maelstrom Gamers channel. Check that out. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. It is super helpful and appreciative to get our name and our conversations out there and our content out there. It's a free way to support us. A paid way to support us is go to patreon.com/Maelstrom Gamers, and you can check out all the rewards that we have for you for as little as $1 of support. Additionally, we have our shop up at Zazzle.com/Maelstrom Gamers. You can get T-shirts. You can get we'll eventually have mugs and mouse pads and stuff like that. But right now we have a couple of custom-made T-shirts, so check it out. Trollface Steve is one of my favorites. Backdoor T-shirt is another one of my favorites. We should be having more of that come to you pretty soon. We also are streaming games, so remember to check us out on our YouTube, streaming Division, streaming League of Legends, streaming Smite, streaming Uncharted, and then if if you're sick of watching us, come play with us because we want to play with you. We're not the best. We're certainly not the worst. We are entertaining. That's right. So we got to figure out a better way to do that. And so we'll be back with another 5 topics next week. In the meantime, keep thinking about everything and nothing. It's been an honor to entertain you. Peace. Take care.
Adios.